Hey all, this is 012 Boku, and I'm coming at you with another review of, yes, Twin Peaks, seasons 1 and 2. We are still on them. We're still on season 1, and we are on now episode 3, which is called Rest in Pain. A very aptly titled episode for how a lot of people are feeling at this point in the show, which basically brings us to Cooper, who got the note for One Eyed Jacks because he runs into Audrey at breakfast after having that wacky dream, as you guys know in the last episode. And, Cooper gives a warning to Audrey saying, hey, I'm glad you're helping me. I want to know what this is, connected to. Are you connected to Laura? And also just be careful because, and Cooper also asks Audrey her age, because he sees Audrey Horn is flirting with him, and he picks up on this fairly easily. He also then meets with Sheriff Truman and Lucy as they're trying to figure out who the killer is. Cooper tells them about the dream of the one-armed man, the little man, meeting Laura Palmer, it being 25 years later in the dream, or Cooper's an older man, meeting Mike and Bob, who, Bob admits to killing Laura and that he'll kill again, but he doesn't know who Bob is connected to, because when they ask him who the killer is, Cooper says, I can't remember, but he's like, piece together the code of the dream, solve the crime as he goes on. Cooper and the others are then called into the morgue to where Albert is still doing his autopsy on Laura Palmer. He wants to continue it at any cost to find out, what the causes are for Laura Palmer's death. Dr. Will Hayward isn't allowing it. Ben Horn's there running defense, isn't allowing it. Andy's also there too. Doesn't seem like he's thrilled. I can't remember if Hawk was there too, but I know he had all these characters, battling it out about how Laura should be buried. You're not going to dissect her to look for these clues, do all this now. You're not doing it. And Albert is, just nonplussed, making sarcastic barbs at everybody, joking. I mean, you should be looking at Albert as a jerk, and you sort of do in many ways, but Albert Rosenfield is just way too funny. And again, Miguel Ferrer, who plays Albert Rosenfield, was just perfect casting and just way too funny. This leads to basically Sheriff Truman punching Albert and Albert wanting to file a lawsuit against Twin Peaks and Sheriff Harry Truman for, what was going on. Let's see. Oh, yes, there's also it's a little small scene here. Norma's husband, Hank, is about to be put on parole and possibly get out of prison, pending on what Norma does. And we see that Norma's husband, Hank, possibly has a thing of involuntary manslaughter, meaning that he may not be the best husband. Um, Ed and Norma, sort of have a thing as well about their continued relationship with Nadine. Nadine also goes through this long-winded thing before Laura's funeral, saying how she wanted Ed to notice her and how she was always jealous of Ed and Norma, and almost being very, very possessive of, Big Ed Hurley in many ways. James is still struggling with Laura's death, not wanting to show to the funeral, but he does. Bobby Bobby Briggs has a talk with his father, Major Garland Briggs. Major Garland Briggs thinks Bobby's afraid of the funeral. Bobby says he isn't afraid, he's not bothered by death and that he's going to turn the funeral upside down. The mother just comes in and says, hey guys, how's it going, before they go. Like, sure, nothing of the conversation. Because as you can imagine, Major Garland Briggs is still like frustrated with his son that he can't get through to Bobby. And, Bobby's being rebellious and just acting out at any turn. Because in Bobby's mind, James is the one who killed Laura. And, Bobby doesn't want to care to hear different. And at the funeral, sadly, they're saying the prayers. The priest is talking about how good of a person Laura was, how, great she was, how she helped the community. She was good in Sunday school, and how everyone in the community loved her. Johnny does a funny thing where, they got him to go to the funeral and take off the Indian headdress, and, he's holding one of his storied books because, Johnny's, obviously still dealing with his mental illness. But, he says a nice amen, like sort of not understanding, but he basically says an amen. I'm going to say at that time he probably was giving it to Laura, sort of understanding that they were at Laura's funeral, because I think he got the idea. But again, it's just that Johnny Horn is who he is just Johnny Horn. Again, going back to that deleted scene I told you about right when the show started, when Cooper was interviewing everybody in the first couple episodes, we hear from Dr. Jacoby that Johnny Horn went out into the woods, saw something, and he was never the same since. Sylvia Horn blamed her daughter Audrey for what happened to Johnny, saying that Johnny, fell down some stairs and that's why he's the way he is. But Audrey said, no, I never pushed Johnny at all. Johnny accidentally fell, and I don't think that's what did it, Mom. But they never listened to Audrey. So you can tell Audrey cares about Johnny quite a bit too. That, regardless of what they say about Audrey, Audrey really did love her family, and she's basically vying for her family's attention, no matter how she can get it. But she knows she can't get it, which is why she plays the bad girl and goes for the White Knight characters. Just on a side note here, as well too, as it continues, Bobby and James have a fight at the funeral where James did show up, and Bobby saw him. And before Bobby and James got in a fight, Bobby interrupts Johnny and the priest, saying, all you good people, you knew she was in trouble. We didn't help her. So, save your prayers, preacher. They're not going to bring her back. We all killed Laura. We all failed her. Every one of us did. No, none of us did anything. So, that's Bobby's thing. And then Bobby sees James, and James and Bobby start fighting. All the meanwhile, too, I should have said during the funeral, Special Agent Dale Cooper was checking everybody out, watching everybody closely for the reactions at the funeral, what they were doing, what was happening. So that was a great scene. And then, oh yeah, Leo also had a talk with Special Agent Dale Cooper about Laura Palmer and where he was. And, they basically went over his rap sheet of all the crimes he committed and all the stuff he did. But he said, oh no, my wife can vouch for my whereabouts the night that Laura was killed. Also, Cooper gets introduced to the Bookhouse Boys, which Big Ed Hurley, Sheriff Harry S. Truman, and Deputy Tommy Hawk Hill are all part of. I think Andy Brennan is a part of it too, but I don't think we find that out till later. But you have where they bring Cooper into the Bookhouse Boys, which is this little clubhouse biker bar out near the Roadhouse, and you have the biker Joey from the first episodes there too. James is a part of the Bookhouse Boys too. Big Ed and all of them are there too. Hawk, Truman, and they have Bernard Renault, who's Jacques Renault's brother, who was caught smuggling an ounce of heroin across the border. And, basically they're asking Jacques, or Bernard, where Jacques is, because Jacques, captured by the Bookhouse Boys. Bernard's, denying everything, saying there's personal business, Jacques is away. Cooper's getting into this, basically warning Jacques to say, you better start telling us something, or this could end up being very bad for you in the long run. Meanwhile, as Jacques is coming back to the Roadhouse, he sees this red light as a warning light, runs off and calls Leo Johnson, and asks Leo Johnson to get him out of Dodge. Leo's leaving. You have Shelly come back from the diner, the Roadhouse, and she's asking Leo where he's going. Leo basically says, oh, none of your damn business. So he leaves, and then we see Shelly put a silver Walther PPK into a drawer or behind a drawer, like hidden, to where Leo wouldn't know it was there or can't see it. And sorry if it got bright, guys. I guess there's a lot of sun coming through my back window now, so I apologize. Oh yeah, nothing I can do right now is gonna fix that. So I apologize about that. Look, unless I, well, yeah, but if I stand up, you can't see me. See, I apologize about that. So sorry about all that thing there. Oh, and I forgot to during the funeral too. After the James and Bobby fight, Leland couldn't take it. He collapses on the casket of Laura Palmer, crying as the casket goes up and down, up and down, up and down, as it's taking him in and out of the ground. And Sarah Palmer says to Leland, don't ruin this too, being very ticked off at him for how he's reacting. I also forgot to say his niece, who looks exactly like Laura Palmer, Maddie Ferguson, shows up, and she looks exactly like Laura Palmer in many ways, just with black hair. Although the reason for that is Maddie Ferguson was also played by Cheryl Lee, the same actress who plays Laura Palmer. So she played a dead Laura Palmer in this episode, as well as Maddie Ferguson. So cool little thing there too. You also have Jocelyn Packard, who's telling Sheriff Harry S. Truman that she thinks that Catherine Martell is going to try to kill her, and she tells Harry S. Truman that Catherine and Benjamin Horne are working together, trying to kill her, and Harry's saying, "I'm not going to let anything happen to you, Josie. I'll protect you. I'll be here." And then Jocelyn is trying to show Harry the two ledgers. She looks into the hiding spot where Catherine had them, looks in there, the ledgers are gone, and Catherine, has a ledger hidden in her own, desk area that she only knows about. Pete comes in a little nervous, asking if Catherine has seen his tackle box, and then Catherine yells at him, basically accusing him of showing, Jocelyn where the ledgers were. And she says, "Pete, next time you want to tell something to somebody, be a man about it and ask me to my face." And Pete just walks out of the room dejected, saying, "I think I'll go check the truck for my tackle box." So he just walks out. Also, you have at the end Hawk and Cooper getting together for drinks and talking about souls and the concept of souls. And Hawk tells Cooper he believes in several souls of the dead, the living soul, the dream souls, and souls that wander. So they get into this great, unique talk of souls, and it's very, very cool. And, while this is going on, as, Leland's in agony, and Pennsylvania 65000 starts playing, and he starts wanting to ask random people to dance with him. And, nobody's dancing with him. The music stops. He just breaks down because nobody's dancing with him. Leland and Hawk take him home. And as usual, all the stoplights near the roadhouse are red, almost as a symbol to say, "Don't investigate this further, turn back now." So a very cool ending for it. For this episode, for best characters, again, Kyle MacLachlan, Special Agent Dale Cooper, just great in his role. Michael Ontkean, Sheriff Harry S. Truman, great in the role too as the sheriff, really portraying himself, especially with his thing with Albert. Dana Ashbrook, Bobby Briggs, just had to give it to him in this episode for, how he reacted at the funeral, his fight with James, and just that growing animosity. Let's see. No, there were some other things. Yeah, James Marshall, who played James Hurley, I'll give a nod to him in this episode. He was really good. Ray Wise, Leland Palmer, for him just breaking down and losing it at Laura's funeral, and at the end with the dance, and him just feeling so sad and everything. Piper Laurie, Catherine Martell, even though she was near the end, I have to give it to her. She's just very villainous and venomous about the ledgers and everything. Michael Horse, Deputy Tommy Hawk Hill, showing his Indian heritage in this one very well as a character and showing how he knows a bit more about the town than letting on. Cheryl Lee, Maddie Ferguson, have to say it's great to see Cheryl Lee in a speaking role and playing the dead girl. And, just Cheryl Lee is a great actress. I don't think gives her enough credit. Oh, how could I forget? There's also a part 2, because I got to give a nod to Russ Tamblyn, Dr. Lawrence Jacoby, who showed up after the funeral to give his grievances to Laura. It's like Dale Cooper was waiting there for something to almost take place or happen. Dr. Lawrence Jacoby, shows up to lay flowers at the grave of Laura, telling Cooper he couldn't show up at the at the funeral today because he didn't deserve it. And he tells Cooper, I listen to these people's problems. I should be their friend. They look at me as their friend. The thing is, I don't care. But Laura opened up a side of me that thought I could love again, care again, and I really loved her for it. And he asks Special Agent Dale Cooper, does that make me a bad person? So I gotta give it to Russ Tamblyn. That was such a great scene for him to play. Miguel Ferrer, FBI agent Albert Rosenfield, very good as a sarcastic, FBI agent Albert Rosenfield, just very good. And, what he does and just plays it very well. Let's see here. Wendy Robbie, Nadine Hurley, have to give another nod to her for her just possessiveness of Ed and stuff like that. Yeah, that's pretty much it for the episode for that. And overall, have you guys seen this recent episode? Again, what do you think of Twin Peaks episode 3 or episode 4, if you count the pilot? Just, let me know what you guys think. Leave a comment down below, and we'll get this discussion going, alright? Well, until then, this is 012 Boku, and I will see you guys again later, alright?